Work, we are created to work. Work is good. Work is positive. Work was never meant to be a labor. Work was never meant to be a toil. Work was meant to be something that brought us great satisfaction, not frustration.
We are standing on holy ground, and I know that there are angels all around. Let us pray Jesus now. We are standing in His presence on the holy ground. We are standing on the holy ground, and I know that there are angels all around. Let us pray Jesus now. We are standing in His presence on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground, and I know that there are angels all around. Let us pray Jesus now. We are standing in His presence on holy ground. Let us praise Jesus. Let us praise Jesus now. Let us praise Jesus now. Oh, give it up. Give up your praise. Let us praise Jesus now. We are standing in His presence on holy ground.
The search for the meaning of life is so important in the minds of millions and millions and millions of people. Have you got an answer about the search for the meaning of life? Can you talk about the meaning of life and how to find meaning of life? I'll tell you, the whole world is ready to listen. There's a lot of people that are thinking about the meaning of life because life to them is frustrating, is vanity, is meaningless. It is distressing. And they are looking for meaning in life. That is why this whole thing is very important. And meaninglessness in work frustrates people in their jobs so that they lose all motivation in their jobs. And Viktor Frankl says that when you know why, see, he says when he was there in the concentration camp and people were taken by truckloads and being burned, literally. He said a lot of people, before they were even burned, they were mentally dead because they've given up. They're just ready to die because they saw their friends, their wife or children or somebody taken to be killed, And when they saw that, their hearts lost all hope and they literally died inside. They were ready to just resign themselves to dying and going on, He said a lot of people just gave up hope. And the only thing that kept this man going and hoping till the end was that somehow he'll see his family one day, and his father and mother and his wife and so on. One day, he kept dreaming that one day everything is going to be all right. One day he's going to live a life to tell the story and live a very fruitful and blessed life. The thought, the dream of reaching that day one day, surviving through all this mess and coming through this whole challenging times and lasting till the end, kept him going, he says. So he says, if you know the why, if you know why you're here, why God placed you here in this world at this time, and why God made you the way He made you, why you are gifted the way you are, why God has given you the abilities and gifts that God has given to you that you have and possess now. If you know the why, then how is not a problem. You can deal with many hows. How are we going to overcome this problem, this challenge, that challenge? 1,000 challenges can be overcome if you know the why. Hello. It's very much true when it comes to work. When you know why you should work, what is God's original plan? Why? Why we are made as beings that need to work. Just imagine if we are made any other way. Just imagine if we are made to sit down and eat and not do anything. That'll be terrible. All the food is provided, everything is provided, house is provided, all that you need is provided. You don't have to do any work. You just have to just stay idle and just eat and sleep and not do anything. You'll be missing something very precious. The joy of work is this, that you can use your mind to think, plan, execute, devise things, invent things, create things. You can be like a little creator. And by what you have created, by looking at it, that experience is so wonderful. The joy that your creation brings to you, that your work brings to you, is something that you can never achieve through anything else. So work, we are created to work. Work is good. Work is positive. Work was never meant to be a labor. Work was never meant to be a toil. Work was meant to be something that brought us great satisfaction, not frustration. Work was meant to be something that brought us great joy, not distress. When we understand why, then how to overcome the challenges we face today and why the work is difficult is not a problem. We can overcome that. The why must be understood. All right. So the man goes through 3 stages. This preacher goes through 3 stages. The first stage is where there is a quest to make sense of life through learning and wisdom. He is now seeking to learn the meaning of life through learning and wisdom. Someone has told him probably that if you just learn enough, if you just study enough, if you go and educate yourself enough, then you will have enough wisdom, and that wisdom will answer all the questions of your life. You will have the answer to that question, the big question, the meaning of life. So he goes in search of wisdom. In chapter 1, verse 13, we read this. And I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that is done under heaven, this burdensome task God has given to sons of men, by which they may be exercised. Now, right there, you must stop and think about this. He says, this burdensome task God has given to the sons of man, by which they may be exercised. What is he saying? He says, God has given a burdensome task, and the language is very old here, so let me use some more modern translation. By which they may be exercised means by which they may be afflicted. This burdensome task, he's talking about work, he says, this burdensome task God has given, and thus afflicted men. What a view of life and what we do in life. He says, I looked around at all that is done under heaven. This burdensome task of life itself and everything that we do is given to the sons of men by which they may be afflicted. Is that right? If you read chapter 1 and 2 of Genesis, it is not right at all. In chapter 1 and 2, God didn't say, I've created you and I have only one purpose for you, that you may be afflicted and be burdened with all this work, so that it will become wearisome, that you may be crushed under this work. Is that what God said? No. God said, I'll make man in my image and likeness, in our image and likeness, and let them, then he blessed them and said, be fruitful, multiply, fill, subdue, and dominate over everything. God made man in his image, made him like a ruler, planted a garden, put him in it to cultivate and to keep it. What a wonderful plan God had. This doesn't come from the Bible. This is a man looking at the world, and he doesn't have the knowledge of God. He doesn't take God into, he doesn't factor in God here. These ideas didn't come from God, didn't come from the Bible. This is not God's word where he got his knowledge from. This is worldly wisdom, speculative wisdom. The whole book is trying to show how speculative wisdom leads to vanity, meaninglessness, and does not give the meaning. Talking about this and that, try to figure out this and that only with world's wisdom. See, the world has a wisdom of its own, which is in a way good. You know, like you study physics, chemistry, mathematics, and all these subjects, which is good. But when it comes to certain things, the world does not have answers. You know, some books of the Bible, when you read it, like book of James or book of Proverbs in the Old Testament, when you read it, it's like being in a church hearing the preaching of a pastor, right? Telling you, be good, do good, don't do this, and so on. That type of ethical type of teaching. But when you read Ecclesiastes, it is like attending a philosophy class. Have you ever attended a philosophy class? When I went to college, that's the major they gave me. Now, in my days, you could study only what they give you, not what you ask, you know. So they gave me philosophy major. So I went and sat there. In 1 week, my head was rolling, you know. I just didn't know what in the world was happening, you know. I just went back and told the principal, I want some other major. He said, what? I said, give me anything. He said, we have only politics you want. I said, that's better, give me. I remember when I went to study in Bible college, I went for my visa, and the American visa officer said, you're studying politics, why do you want to go and study Bible now? What does politics have to do with the Bible? I said, sir, in our country, we study only what they give us. So I've been studying what they gave me, but now only I'm going to study what I really want to study. Immediately he stamped me and said, go. Philosophy is, you know, I used to tell the Tamil-speaking people, it's like looking for a buffalo in the middle of the night without any light, you know. When you can't even see a cow in the daytime, in broad daylight, you know. You're never going to get answers. Philosophy is like this, you know, they ask questions and you're supposed to answer them. They ask a question, you answer. And when you answer, obviously your answer is not going to be right at the first instance. So they'll say, to lead you to the answer, they'll ask another question. So you answer that. And then that will lead you to another question. Then you answer that. Then they'll ask you another question. Then you answer. So it's multiplied questions coming at you, and you are going back with your answers. The point is to make you arrive at your own answer. That's the way they teach philosophy, you know. And this guy is into that kind of a philosophical wisdom thing, you know. He's trying to ask questions about the world, what's happening and what's going on and so on, trying to find answers. And now he's got his own ideas. He's coming up with his answers. His answer is not right. Some people may point out to the Bible and say, look, it says that God has given this burdensome task of life and living and work to men so that men may be afflicted with it. See, this is the will of God. No, it's not right. It's in the Bible, but it's not right. It's in the Bible, But this is a man who's talking his own philosophy. This is not the wisdom of God. This is not truth from the Bible. You want the truth? You read Genesis 1 and 2. That tells you the truth. God never made life burdensome and wearisome. God never intended man to be afflicted with all these burdens. You know. So this man is doing it with the world's wisdom. Then he says in verse 15, what is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. I communed with my heart, saying, look, I have attained greatness and gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge. Finally, he's read all the books and searched everything and become very educated. He's looking for the truth about meaning of life. And he says, I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is grasping for the wind. After trying so hard, reading all the books and trying to understand, get all the learned wisdom and understanding, he says, I've been grasping for the wind. It's a waste of time, he says. It's just, I didn't get nothing out of, no answer. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases in knowledge increases sorrow. That's his conclusion. After searching for wisdom and understanding, he says, it only leads to sorrow. Let me read you another passage, chapter 2, verse 12 onwards. Chapter 2, verse 12. Then I turned myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do who succeeds the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceived that the same event happens to them all. So he's talking about the wise man and the fool, and in the end, the same thing happens to both the wise man and the fool, he says. So I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it happens to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said, now he's getting to be a real philosopher. Then I said in my heart, this is also vanity, meaningless. The same thing that happens to the fool that doesn't even think with his brain, the same thing happens to me who's well educated and studied, he says. For there is no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever, since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And how does a wise man die? As a fool. How does the wise man die? Just like the fool, he says. There's no difference in the way people die. Whether you're wise or fool, you die the same way, he says. So I thought about all of these things. He says, I thought about the fact that everything is going to be forgotten. Nobody's going to remember me for my great wisdom and all that. I'm not going to be celebrated and remembered 200 years from now. Nobody will even know who I am. I thought about all these things. I'm going to die the same death as the fool in this world who doesn't even think much. Then why am I wise? He says. In other words, he's thinking about death. He says, one day we're going to die. This life is not a lasting life. One day we're all going to die. And when we die, everything ends. I don't see anything beyond death. And because we're going to die, everything that we try to do now is a waste. It's meaningless because it's going to die with us. Death makes everything frustrating. Death makes everything meaningless. The fact that you go and study so much and go to college and try so hard and then go to work and earn so hard and go work so hard and then get married and work on it so hard, you know. And then build a house and work on it so hard to build a house and all this business. And then finally you die. And someone is enjoying this. He says, it's a waste of time. He says, I thought about it. Because the end of everything is death. And death is not going to be something very special, he says. They're not going to have a very special death event for me because I'm wise. I'm going to die just like the fool. And just like the fool is forgotten, I'm going to be forgotten, he says. So there is frustration. He's frustrated, literally. He says, what is the point of me getting up, going, studying, searching for wisdom, trying so hard and getting all this wisdom? I learned more than anybody else, he says. But it's frustrating to think that one day it's all going to end. Nobody's going to care anything about what I knew. Yet I knew more than anybody else, he says. how frustrating it is. The more you learn, the more frustrating it becomes. The more you learn, more sorrow only you get, he says. It's worldly wisdom, worldly knowledge. You get so much of it, but it just frustrates you even more. More than ever you're frustrated, you're distressed by it, he says. But then, since he didn't find it in wisdom and understanding and learning, he's now trying to find meaning for life in something else, that is pleasure. He goes after pleasure now. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, but surely this also was vanity. I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth, what does it accomplish? I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly till I might see what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. He said, while I was getting educated and getting the wisdom, I saw some people were drinking, and I thought maybe I should try that also. Maybe in that there is something, you know. He says, I made, see, up-to-date book this is. This is not old. This is current reality. He says, I made my works great. I built myself houses and planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the special treasures of kings and of the provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of the sons of men, and musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me. In Jerusalem also my wisdom remained with me. Right? The learning is still there. Now he's getting into pleasure. Learning didn't accomplish what he was looking for. It didn't give him meaning for life. So he's kept the learning, but he's now adding to it pleasure. Whatever my eyes desired, listen to this. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my reward from all my labor. He says, I didn't keep anything that my eyes desired. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure. Here is a guy who has tried everything in the world, you know. One time one guy said, I'm going to try that also. I said, don't try, just read this. Don't waste your time. This guy has gone through it, never left anything, tried A to Z, everything. And read his conclusion. That is why Ecclesiastes is given. This guy has tried everything. Don't waste your money, don't waste your time, don't waste your effort. Just read. This guy says, I have tried everything. Nothing that my eyes saw, nothing that my heart desired, I kept from it. I gave it all. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, on the labor in which I had toiled. And indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. He has built houses, orchards, and built everything so that he can have pleasure. He tried drinking, he tried everything in the world. Nothing that his eyes desired, nothing that his heart desired, he kept from it, gave it all. He went gung-ho on everything, just full speed, and tried everything. Nothing worked. He says, all meaningless. Meaningless, he says. So now he has tried wisdom, and then he tried pleasure. The third thing, he's trying to work, he's going to try work. Now, I still have not left my subject. Some of you are looking at me and say, what are you talking about? You're supposed to talk about work. I am talking about work. To come to this third point only, I went through the first 2 points. So the third thing he tries to find meaning for life is work. He thinks that work, if he gets fully into it, like he got into learning and like he got into pleasure, if he gives himself fully to it and work and work and work and really give himself to it, somehow he'll find the meaning of life. So he goes into work.
Everybody clapping your hands, if you can, with me, all right? mercy and the power of His love, they is stronger than all, stronger than all. As we worship in unity, Jesus our Lord, victory comes in His name, by His word, not by power, and not by might, by my Spirit, says the Lord. Not by power, and not by might, by my Spirit, says the Lord. The weapons of our warfare are not of this world, they are mighty through God, mighty through God. The power of His mercy and the power of His love, they are stronger than all, stronger than all. As we worship in